We're going to start right now with some questions that were brought to me by the way of the brothers in the class. And they had them up here since the last week, so they want me to address that. So I'll go right into that and then to the day's questions. First question is, how righteous is a married man that watches porn? Is that corn or porn? I see a P instead of a C, so it must be porn. I thought he was talking about watch corn. But you got married men that say they're righteous, that go home and watch porn. But I'm not trying to step on any of you fellows' feelings, but that's weird. It's very weird. And it's not righteous that Israelite would watch porn, or that Israelites would go to a, what's that little thing they give when men get ready to get married and women get ready to get married? A bachelor party. They got men go to bachelor's party, and I hear talk about it in the shop, how the women be doing everything to them, and they need that because they finna straighten out and straighten up, and they figure this is the way out. Well, and women do the same thing. A lot of women have these little parties and have men jumping all over, and they putting money in their shorts, and then they doing everything from what they telling me. I think it's an abomination. I don't know why any righteous man would want to get married and the night before he get married have another woman jumping all over him. It doesn't seem productive, and it's not the ways of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's not the ways of our foreparents, and it leads to wickedness. So I don't think any man that considers himself righteous should be viewing pictures of something the Creator considers an abomination, and that's single women and single men having sex with each other and doing everything, and he's getting enjoyment out of it, when the scriptures clearly tells us not to strengthen the hands of evildoers. And that's exactly what you're doing. These people make a livelihood out of making people look like a fool on the eve of their wedding. Another question we get through real quick. All right, married couples at work, should they pay separate tithes? Only if they get separate blessings. Now, if they are tied to each other, then they should pay tithes together. But if they're two different individuals with two different blessings coming from the Most High, they should pay separate tithes. That's how our people have always done it. Only time they should pay one tithe if the wife is not working and she's at home, or the woman is working and the husband is not working. Then they pay tithes for the family. But if they have their independent jobs, then they need to show their independent blessings. Greetings, Mr. Obama, President-elect. We, the nation of Israel, commend you, Michelle, and your team on a monumental achievement to be the 44th President of the United States of America. Our request is to meet with you in person to verify that we, the true children of Israel, and the land of Israel was given to us as Israelites according to Genesis 17:7-8, and not to Jewish people. You took a photo with your yarmulke. In a speech you said, Reverend Wright introduced you to Christ. Did Christ tell you to worship the Father and Him only? And should we serve May the Holy One of Israel bless you, keep you in perfect peace. Right. Look like we got through all the questions here from the listening audience. Let's deal with the New Testament. Most people are under the erroneous impression that the New Testament is the word of the Most High. And they read somewhere in 1 Timothy that it said all scriptures were given by the inspiration of Elohim and is profitable for doctrine, reproof, correction, and instruction in righteousness. And so they took this to mean that all scriptures, whether it was Paul's word, Peter's words, Christ's words, or Luke's word, was the inspired word of the Most High. But little did our people realize that when that statement was made, that there was no such thing as a New Testament. Little did our people realize that the only scriptures that those people in that particular time or dispensation studied was the Old Testament. Every time they said, go to the scriptures, they were invariably speaking of the Old Testament. There was no New Testament. No one at that time ever read a New Testament. No one quoted the New Testament as doctrine. They always went back to the Old Testament. If you do research and see when they said, look in the scriptures, or so says the scriptures, they were all speaking of the Old Testament. The New Testament, as we know it, is a Johnny-come-lately. The first New Testament that the world had ever known was written by a man named Marcion, a Greek. His name is spelled Marcion for those amongst you that are inquisitive and would like to verify the validity of our teachings. You can go to the internet, you can go to the library, and all the material that you want to look on about Marcion should be at your disposal. I'll tell you a few things about him. He was a Greek. He was a notable teacher, and he hated the Most High. I said the man that first wrote the New Testament, Marcion, hated the Most High. And he was known by his contemporaries as a son of Satan. He wanted a book that his followers could go by and read that spoke of them. He looked at the Old Testament as a book about the history of the Jews or the Israelites. And he wanted a book about the history of his people and their place in the role of a church. This man then collected certain epistles or certain writings of the early church. These were nothing more than letters. He collected the letters or the epistles of Paul. He assumed that this was his personal property. Anytime he wanted to inject something in it, he did. Anytime he wanted to take something away out of this literature, he did, before he conceived it as being his personal property. So anytime he wanted to add something to his literature, he did. His New Testament consisted of 14 epistles. Epistles, again, just means writings or letters. He also had one gospel. He was so popular that his movement rivaled that of the Catholic Church. And after his death, the Catholic Church went on and proceeded to go further into what he was doing.